The Orville, and takes place 400 years in the future. Tell us a little bit.
It does. It is an hour-long sci-fi comedic drama. Is the best way to put it. We kind of straddle a line between comedy and legit science fiction. We're kind of trying something new here.
And it's an hour, and there's an actual story and a plot.
Yeah.
It's not just based on your other work. It's not just a series of jokes that are like followed for the laugh.
Yeah. In 30 minutes we could make it a sitcom, but with an hour, again, this is something that hasn't really been attempted, and we think we've kind of cracked the code. But
is it an idea you've had for a long time?
Yeah. I mean, look, I've always been obviously a big fan of comedy. I worked in comedy, but I was always a big sci-fi fan and had never really written in that genre. And it's always a tough sell to kind of combine these two things.
Yeah.
But recently with things like Guardians of the Galaxy and Deadpool, like there's audiences are seem a little bit more willing to kind of accept that marriage. And no one's ever really tried it for TV in an hour-long format. So I said, what the hell,
Yeah.
Fox, what do you think?
Fox owes you nothing but money.
And it's a big swing, and we'll see if it goes. But we feel like we got something special.
So I think an example of something that is both comic but also character-driven that leads to story is your co-captain is your ex-wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that something you sort of realized right away you wanted to have as be an element of this?
Yeah. It felt like the best sci-fi for me is the stuff that kind of casualizes the world and humanizes it, makes it oddly mundane. Because a lot of sci-fi tends to be very operatic and very big, and that just seemed like something that was you put the captain and his first officer, who's his ex-wife, side by side every week. You're never gonna get too out of the realm of reality because you're always gonna have that staring you in the face.
Yeah.
And of course, you have Adrienne Palicki from Friday Night Lights, who's
fantastic
brilliant.
Actress.
She's amazing, it's different, and I think it's going to surprise people, but hopefully in a good way.
You have some amazing cameos. Jeffrey Tambor, Charlize is in it, and but a brilliant use of the legendary Norm Macdonald, because if you're going to have Norm Macdonald in a sci-fi show, feels like you have a lot of options.
Yeah.
Tell us what you went with and how you got there.
He plays a gelatinous blob named Yaphet.
Yeah.
Which looks good on paper, and then when you realize you have to do a CGI character every week, it starts to become very expensive. And so you maybe write him back a little bit but he's hilarious. And I called him. I said, Norm, you want to be a blob?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll be a blob, sure. And then he just, he's one of the funniest guys out there.
He is the funniest guy out there, and it's really fun. You realize to hear his voice, you are immediately. The blob is Norm.
Yeah. Exactly. Which is kind of, the thing has no face, so it had to be something that.
Yeah, it's just a mouth.
All had to come from the voice.
And obviously, it's very hard, very time-intensive for you. It seems like Norm's got the best job on earth. What is he doing? Like 20 minutes a week?
Yeah. He's set.
Yeah.
But it's a golden 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a golden 20 minutes. I feel like he's figured it out. So I want to ask about your album, In Full Swing. Was this exciting to do?
Yeah, these things are always a blast. This is my my other side gig. We recorded this at Abbey Road in London with about a 45 piece orchestra.
Wow.
Joel McNeely, who actually does scoring for Orville, did all the arrangements, and it's all big band swing tunes with strings.
And how intensive time-wise is that process to do an album with that many musicians?
It's because it's all kind of, we do as much of it live as we can. You're in there with the musicians like they used to do. It's not, the production itself is like 3 days. You record the whole thing in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Because you're there, the band's there, and what's in the room is what winds up on the recording. And
in the lead up, how hard is it for you to actually select down to 16, 20 songs around then? Like, do you kind of know for years the ones you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I have a long list of things I'd eventually like to do. For these kinds of records, you can't really, because you're dealing with so many musicians and the time and the cost, you really do have to narrow it down beforehand. So we picked these 15 or 16, and this is what's going to be on the record. No cuts.
Do you think that janitor ever hears this album and goes, "That's my voice"? He's doing me in that.
It's possible, yeah. It's
possible. Do you know that people resent you because you can sing and do a lot of other things, and it feels like you should only be able to do like one or two of them?
Man.
And then it's like you kind of can sing and write and draw and act.
Critics are always beating
Yeah, they're like, they're kind of like, pick your lane, buddy.
Like grinding the axe.
You, with that said, though, you obviously, as we've discussed, you've made fun of people, you've made fun of celebrities. It does seem like you end up getting cameos on your show. Have you ever had a situation where you've reached out to somebody and say, hey, you'd be perfect for this, and they said, hey, actually, I'm not going to do that because you did this to me?
Not that I can think of.
Gotcha.
That's a very good question. No. I mean, we've had people who have. Usually, what happens is the other thing, where we'll take a shot at somebody and we'll think that they're going to hate us for this.
Yeah.
And then we'll run into the person or they'll call and they'll say, hey, I love that thing on Family Guy. Can I come in and do the show?
Oh, wow.
And then we're obligated to
No, right. Yeah, exactly.
There was a great moment where Peter Griffin took a shot at Carrie Elways. And we're all in the
What a weird shot to take.
Yeah.
Carrie Elways, Princess Bride,
But
fantastic.
he's writing kind of a fan letter to Carrie Elways that's full of a couple of jabs. And one day in the writers' room, Carrie Elways just walks in.
Oh my God.
And reads the response that he had written.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Now he's like our friend for life.
You have terrible security.
I know.
Yeah.
But Carrie Elways can just walk in to a television production. What's next?
Well, that's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear what a good sport he is.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And thanks for being here. Congrats on the new show and
Thanks so
everything
much,
else.
man.
Always good to see you. Seth MacFarlane.